So this passage, it says, do not judge. It's like a quote, from Jesus. Do not judge. It sounds pretty simple. Do not judge. Like, do you judge? Okay, then stop. But it's also really easy to abuse this passage. It's really easy to take this phrase, do not judge, and apply it the wrong way, like straight out of context. That's kind of funny, but anyways. Yeah, the pity laughs were nice, thank you. But here's an example. Let me show you how to abuse this passage. Let's say I killed a guy. Okay, so I killed a guy. And you walk up to me, and you're like, Mr. Royce, like, I loved having you as a teacher. Like, that was great and all, but, like, you killed a guy. Like, I'm going to have to call the police. And then I respond, don't judge me. Like, you don't know my past. Like, you don't know what I've been through. And you coming up in here on your high horse telling me, don't commit murder, Mr. Royce. Man, only God can judge me. So back up if you know it's good for you. That is not how you're supposed to use the phrase, do not judge. It's not a free pass to do whatever you want. And I know that's a silly example. But the point, it does display the mistake and the misunderstanding that most of us have about when it comes to do not judge. Simply understanding that a specific action is wrong or sinful or disobedient is not judging. Simply comprehending that an action someone has done is not what they should have done isn't being judgmental. You see, judging someone is when we make conclusions about people based on their actions. It could be said this way. It's okay to judge actions. It's not okay to judge people. There is a difference between judging someone and judging an action someone has done. God genuinely wants us to know what is right and wrong. He genuinely wants us to be able to judge which actions are going to bring us and others closer to Him, which actions are going to bring us closer to His plan for our lives. He wants us to genuinely know how to judge if an action is taking us further from God or closer to Him, or if our actions are hurting others or not. We should be able to judge that. Which actions are good, righteous, and holy, and which actions are sinful and destructive and harmful. We should be able to judge those things. Judging in general is not sinful. Judging actions is not sinful. Judging people is sinful. You see, we are free and okay to make judgments about what is right and what is wrong. But when we take those things people have done and make conclusions about them as individuals because of their actions, that's when we cross the line and disobey Jesus. When we make judgments about people based on what they've done, that is when we're not doing that's when we're doing what Jesus tells us not to. You see, judging people is when we confuse people's actions for their core identity. Judging people happens when we confuse their actions for who they are at their core, their essence, their identity, who they are in their heart, their character. You see, what Jesus is saying is that our character, our hearts, our motives, who we are deep down, is not defined by our actions. But when we mix up people's actions and start giving them identities and labels based on what they've done, that is when we are judging them. And so say someone does something wrong. It's harmful, it's disobedient, it's destructive, it's impure. And from their action, from them doing that, we say, oh, because they did that, I now see them this way. That is judging. That's judging people. You see, it's one thing to say, oh, that thing that person did, Like, that's pretty messed up, that thing they did. But we cross the line into judging people when we say they are messed up. It's one thing to say it is wrong for that person to tell a lie. It's another thing to say deep down that person's just a liar. It's one thing to say, man, my friend shouldn't have made this choice. Like maybe they shouldn't have done that. But it's another thing to say that deep down at their core, they are a dirty, rotten person. You see, perhaps this has happened to you. Maybe you've done something. It wasn't too smart. It wasn't too intelligent. You probably wouldn't do it again. You know, it was sinful. It was impure, deceitful, whatever it was. But you did it, and instead of someone just judging you for judging that action, you felt that in some fundamental way that they pushed your entire self down to raise themselves up. That in some fundamental way they took you and shoved you down instead of just pointing out what you did wrong. How many of you guys know exactly, what I'm talking about? We easily jump from people's actions to making grand conclusions about their identity as a person. We easily jump from the things people say and do to making a grand conclusion about their entire identity as a human being. You see, it's okay if a friend points out to you that you did something that you shouldn't have done. That's not them judging you. But it is something wrong. It is judging when they look at you and they say, you did that, you are bad. Like you are impure. You are hateful. You are just wrong. That's when we've crossed the line. If you are going to point out to somebody something they did wrong, you got to make sure you're the right person for the job. If some random person I've never talked to, don't know at all, comes up and starts pointing out all my faults, I just don't know how much I'm going to consider it. I just don't know. Depends how convincing they are. But if someone that knows my secrets, someone that knows me personally, and someone I really respect points out something wrong to me, something I did, I'm gonna really consider it. I'm gonna be like a player whose coach is telling them to change their technique so they can play better. I'm gonna adjust and live better. That's all the judgment needs to be in that scenario. But let's keep looking at this passage. I read it earlier, but let's start with verse 3 again. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. You see, the image Jesus gives is of a guy with a plank in his eye. You see, judging people is when we confuse their actions with their identity. One of the ways we judge people is based on their appearance. It's like a guy's got a log in his eye, and now he's the freak that everyone's staring at like he's crazy. Man, that did not land at all. No laughs. Anyways. But for real, we do judge based on appearance. Oh, she's really, she doesn't got her look together. Oh, his clothes aren't the right clothes. And we just treat that person as different. And we don't relate to them because they look a certain way. And we're like, we just ignore them because of it. And that goes both ways, my friends. Sometimes someone's got the fresh look, and what do we conclude? Oh, they must be shallow and dumb and care about everything that's not important because they look that way. Okay, I'm sick of this. Sometimes we take an opinion someone shares and we totally judge them based on that opinion. When someone says something we don't agree with, we don't just say, I disagree. We often find a way to make the person we disagree with feel like they are completely less than us, in that they are genuinely worth less as a human being because they have an opinion that we don't share. Sometimes we judge people based on one thing they said. It's like we take a soundbite. Cable news is also great at this. But we take one thing a person says, and we make judgments about their entire identity, their entire core, who they are in their heart, because they said one thing. The human life is way too complex to make an accurate judgment, even if we were supposed to, on just one word or one thing a person said. Some of us, we've been here a while. Some of you juniors, seniors, some of you guys avoid people because of something they did in 8th grade. Newsflash, people change over time. The 8th grade version of someone and the 12th grade version of someone are going to be totally different people. And honestly, we change every day. We are constantly, like who we are is actually affected by our experiences and the people we meet and the people we know. And every day we become a different person. And so to judge people based on something they did in the past, that's just out of touch with reality. That's like pretending, people don't change. Others of us carry deep doubts and deep questions just about life and the faith in Jesus. And if once we word this question, we jump on that person like they're the biggest atheist in the world just because they had a doubt and a question. We're taking one thought someone's having and making these huge judgments based on them. Others of us, sometimes we make judgments based on what class people are in. Like, oh, senior guys, they're all like this. Oh, junior girls, they're all like this. Oh, that's the good class. Oh, that's the bad class. Oh, this class is that way. What we're taking little bits and pieces of people's lives and giving statements and conclusions about people's identity based on little things like that. And this kind of judging can be so harmful. And one of the biggest reasons this type of judging can be so harmful is because even if it's wrong, we'll start to believe it. I went here from 7th to 12th grade, and I work here for a few years now, and I've seen a lot of classes come in and come out. How many times have I seen a class of good kids get called the bad class? And these kids keep getting called the bad class, and what happens? You would think that they would be like, oh, I'm ready to prove my haters wrong. But in reality, the temptation is, man, if this is already my reputation, then I might as well live it up. If this is already what I'm getting called, then I might as well live that way. So be careful with the judgments we make. The harmful judgments we make might be true, they might not. And the ones that aren't might become true over time. If we keep telling someone they're a certain way, they're going to believe it. Of all the things we judge, the thing that might be the judgment that might cause the most pain, the judgment that might cause the most harm, is when we judge people for their past actions. I've got a passage in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 5:17. I'm going to need to read this one up here. It's not on, Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here. There's us before Christ, and I'm not just talking about the prayer you said when you were 5. There's us before we got serious about our relationship with Christ, and there's us after we got serious about our relationship with Christ. When we judge people for the past actions, what happens is we pretend that no actual change took place. You see, when we get real with Christ, change happens. We are a new creation. And when we judge people based on their past actions, we try to undo what Jesus has done in their life. And it actually works sometimes. I've seen people get judged out of their faith. God really made an impact on them, but people kept hating on them, and they acted like Jesus never happened to them. It's dangerous stuff we deal with. When we judge people for past actions, we try to undo Christ's work. We try to pretend that the old creation is still here. There's another important distinction I want to make when it comes to judging. And the distinction is this: there is a difference between a hypocrite and someone who struggles to follow Jesus. There is a difference between someone being a hypocrite and someone being someone who struggles to follow Jesus. You see, some people do act like hypocrites. Some people just want to give off the impression that they love God. Some people just want to give off the religious appearance, but in reality, their heart has never fallen in love with Jesus. But then there's a lot of people, and I suspect that this is a lot more of us than we realize. There's a lot of people who desperately want to love Jesus with everything, desperately want to love others well, desperately want to live good, obedient lives, but we're just not good at it yet. Like, we're just trying and failing at the same time. And that's not hypocritical. That's struggling. And we should be next to those people, being helpful, rather than just being like, oh, they messed up, therefore they must be a hypocrite. Following Jesus is a tough battle, and it's not easy. And I make a countless amount of mistakes along the way. I can't imagine, we all probably make a lot of mistakes along the way. It's tough to be obedient to Jesus. And when we expect people to be very successful at doing what may be the world's toughest task, and then calling them a hypocrite every time they mess up, what are we thinking? When people are struggling, we should be there to help them, not ready to point out their struggle and push them down. And then some of us, we see these people struggle, but in our heads we've been calling them hypocrites. But we see these people who are struggling give their faith a solid effort. Maybe they come up to worship and they sing passionately. Maybe they get online and post a Bible verse, but we think, oh, they still sin, therefore they're a hypocrite. Not always. Sometimes those people are genuinely trying. They're just not good at following Jesus yet. And that's okay. That's why we help each other out. But there's some of us who don't want to be seen as fake hypocrites. So we aren't going to be open with our faith at all, because the only people open with their faith are these fake, struggling hypocrites. And we hold back from being open with our faith here because we don't want to be associated with people who are got a messy life, who don't have their stuff together, but they're trying anyway. And so we stand back and we just watch them do their thing. We watch them worship God. We watch them, share scripture and encourage people. But we don't want to be like them because they sin sometimes. Don't let the fear of being associated with those people keep all of us from being impacted by your faith. Don't let the fear of being seen as a fake hypocrite because you mess up sometimes. Don't let that keep you from making the positive impact that your faith can have on this community. You see, I want to close with this thought. There are two types of people. There are safe people, and there are unsafe people. Safe people and unsafe people. A safe person is someone you can come to no matter what. A safe person is someone you can tell your darkest secrets to, and they will still love you. A safe person is someone you can approach and be messy around and share your faults and mistakes with, and they will still support you either way. A safe person is someone that you can be totally yourself around. You can let them know what you're really thinking, and they're not going to be too offended by it. They're going to still love you anyway. A safe person is someone that you can share your sins with, and they will push you to live better and make you feel completely loved at the same time. That's what being a safe person is all about. But then there's being an unsafe person. An unsafe person is someone you can't go to no matter what. An unsafe person is someone you keep your secrets from because if they knew them, they would use them to hurt you. An unsafe person is someone that you can't let them know what your faults and mistakes are, so you always act all nice and perfect around them. Because if they knew your faults and mistakes, they will make sure to point them out, not just to you, but to everyone, and they will push you down for them. An unsafe person is someone you hide from because you think they'll hurt you. When we judge, we become unsafe people. When we judge, we become unsafe people. When we often take people's actions and give them negative identities because of their actions, people are going to be afraid to live life around us. When we constantly take people's actions and hurt them with their own actions, we become unsafe. And if our desire is to love God with everything and to love people with everything, then we need to seek to be safe people. See, the opposite of being a safe person is being judgmental. But if we want to love God and love people, we should seek to be safe people. One of the greatest ways that we can love others is to be there for them. And the best way in being there for them must begin with seeking to be a safe person for them to come to. And when we judge, we're no longer safe. People pick up on it. So may we become safe people. May we create a safe environment. May we no longer judge others. May we not confuse actions with identities. And may we be the safest place on the planet for those who are hurting, struggling, hiding, and needing. Thank you.